In the UFC 5th visit to Charlotte since 2018, rising prospect Gelton Almeida looks to take out perennial contender Rozenstruik. This weekend, I am going to go through the entire card and give you my prediction. In the preliminary card, longtime bantamweight contender Jessica Rose Clark will welcome promotional newcomer Tainara Lisboa. Both fighters come from a kickboxing background, but Lisboa has competed at a higher level and has won world championships in kickboxing and Muay Thai, so it's logical to believe that she will have the edge in the striking exchanges. As long as the fight stays on the feet, Lisboa will overpower and outmaneuver the UFC veteran because of her technical superiority and diverse striking game. The Brazilian is also a pretty capable wrestler. Clark is a tough cookie, so she will make this one very competitive, especially with a well-rounded skill set. But based on their recent efforts, I have to give it to the Brazilian since she is on a 3-fight winning streak, whereas Clark is on a 2-fight losing skid. Next, we have Brian Battle versus Gabriel Green. It's a pretty good matchup for an early prelim. Both fighters are coming off losses and they'll do anything in their capacity to bounce back into winning ways, which obviously means we should expect some fireworks. On paper, Battle is the better fighter in every department, be it striking or grappling, and throughout his career, he has shown that he can win in a variety of ways. He also possesses too much power for Green's liking, and he should be able to return to his winning ways with a clinical performance. Any other result will be an upset. Next fight, Yin Yang Kim versus Mandy Baum, is a very high-stakes matchup for both fighters, especially for the fighter from South Korea, since she is on a 4-fight losing run. A 5th consecutive loss could signal the end of her UFC career. Baum is on a 2-fight losing streak, and a 3rd may not be as bad for her, but you never know when Dana White and company decides to cut you off. Yin Yang Kim and Bo are aggressive strikers who love to throw down. The South Korean is slightly better in terms of volume and technical prowess, and she should be able to outstrike the German to earn a comfortable decision victory, but I really won't be surprised if Boyle pulls off the upset. Next fight is Natal Levy versus Pete Rodriguez. For this particular fight, Pete Rodriguez is moving down to lightweight to face a very talented fighter. Rodriguez has the same height and reach as Levy, but it is his power that may be the difference on the night. Levy is a striker by default just like Rodriguez, but he's better rounded and utilizes his wrestling to good effect. His wrestling will come in handy, especially early on in the fight when Rodriguez charges forward with reckless abandon. Rodriguez's strategy will revolve around using his explosiveness and trying to finish the fight in the first round. But I think Levy has an all-round better skill set and he's way more composed in comparison to his opponent. To weather the early storm, Levy will mix things up and that'll ultimately get him ahead on the scorecards. Next we have Cody Stamann versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. From 2020 to 2022, Cody had a pretty tough personal and professional life. He lost his brother in 2020 and then went on a 3-fight losing streak before bouncing back with 2 wins. Douglas was 22-0 when he signed with the UFC, but he failed to fulfill his potential, going 6-5 in his 11 promotional fights. While a victory on Saturday night won't catapult either into title contention, it'll still be a big boost, which is why it is an important fight for both, especially for Cody, who could earn an exciting matchup with a win. Douglas is a big and explosive bantamweight who possesses decent knockout power, but Cody is one of the toughest bantamweights on the roster and has never been finished. On the feet, the Brazilian will have the edge because of his explosive boxing, which is why I am expecting Cody to wrestle a lot and pin Douglas to the cage long enough for him to impress the judges. Next, we have Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman. Carl Williams made a successful start to his UFC career, Łukasz Brescia, and will now face a veteran of the sport, Chase Sherman, in a heavyweight matchup that could end in a blink of an eye. Now, Sherman isn't a world beater by any means. He lost 10 out of his 14 UFC fights, but he continues to remain in the good books of the UFC brass because he tends to go out of his way to serve them. Despite his patchy record, Sherman is extremely dangerous on his feet with good hands and ferocious hand speed. To unleash his incredible knockout power, however, Sherman will have to keep the fight standing up, and that's a tough ask. Williams' wrestling will be his key to victory on the night, and I expect him to use his power athleticism to neutralize Sherman's threat on the feet, take him down, and score another win. Matt Brown will be making his 13th UFC appearance against another veteran of the sport, Court McGee. Both fighters are coming off losses, with McGee coming off a worse one. In his most recent fight, he was scorched by Jeremiah Wells. For once, the UFC has made a good decision by matching up one veteran against another instead of feeding him to an up-and-coming fighter, but even then it won't be an easy fight for either. Brown would test McGee's chin, especially after it was badly cracking in his most recent fight. The Immortal is a seasoned campaigner whose violent and aggressive striking may pose problems to McGee, who will want to test his foe's grappling prowess. The way I see it, McGee's wrestling should be enough to get him a decision win, but I really don't want to rule out the possibility of a knockout thanks to Brown's violent fighting style. The UFC Charlotte main card opener features two pretty exciting welterweights in Alex Moreno and Tim Means. Moreno's most recent fight snapped his 4-fight winning streak, but I'll still give him the benefit of the doubt for taking it on short notice. He was definitely underprepared, but with a full count, we should expect the best version of him against Tim Means, whose form is much worse with 2 losses in his most recent fights. That being said, Means is a tough cookie to crack for anyone in the division. He is a very well-rounded fighter who mixes up his boxing and grappling to good effect. Moreno has pretty good boxing himself, although his takedown defense isn't very impressive. He's a BJJ black belt who has a capable submission game. With a 3-inch reach advantage, Means will try to outbox Moreno without taking much damage in return, but Moreno's leg kicks and 1-2 combination are going to be his key to victory. Means will try to mix things up by throwing punches, level changing, and securing takedowns. Moreno will fight entirely on the feet, looking to land more damage to steal rounds, and I'm backing him up to do just that. Next, we have an exciting stylistic matchup for City's Kickboxing. Carlos Ulberg, who is acknowledged as one of the more exciting prospects of the UFC light heavyweight division. The kickboxer will love this particular fight because of Ilir Peteria is also a striking heavy fighter who is pretty aggressive and confident on the feet. The Ukrainian does have solid sambo fundamentals as well, and to be honest, if I was him, I would use them to absolute smash Ulberg. Peteria's most recent loss came at the hands of Nicola, who lost to Carlos Ulberg, so MMA math favors the New Zealander. But more than that, Ulberg is the better striker and is far more technical than Peteria. One thing Ulberg needs to be careful of are the wild looping shots that may come his way, while Peteria dealing with Ulberg's leg kicks is going to be challenging. Peteria can make this fight very interesting depending on his strategy, but I think he will let his ego get the better of him, keeping the fight standing and ultimately paying a hefty price for it. Next, we have Daniel Rodriguez versus Ian Gary. Now, this fight could be a banger between two highly talented fighters. For Gary, this fight is especially significant since it's a sizable step up in competition from his last few bouts. The Irishman has been talking the talk, and this is the time to walk the walk, and he certainly has the tools to take out a tough challenge like Rodriguez. Gary's very well-rounded, but D-Rod is a very smart fighter who throws technical fire from his southpaw stance. His hard and straight punches are going to test Gary's somewhat suspect defense, and whichever way the fight goes, the chance of it ending in a knockout are pretty solid. Gary has the edge in grappling as he is a judo specialist, but I think it'll be an all-out striking contest with both fighters throwing heat and the Irishman doing just enough to steal the show. Now we have the co-main event between Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker was once considered one of the most exciting prospects in the UFC. He won his first 3 fights in the promotion by first-round knockout, and the sky was the limit for him. Unfortunately, in his next 5 fights, he lost 4 of them and had to change camps and strategies to finally get something going for him again. He's currently on a 2-fight winning streak, but faced a very tough challenge in Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith is coming off an injury-plagued 2022 in which he broke his ankle and lost to Magomed Ankalaev. Prior to that, he was on a 3-fight winning streak. I think Smith is one of the smartest fighters in the UFC light heavyweight division, and knowing Walker is a fast and aggressive starter with a tremendous amount of power in his punches, he'll try to avoid getting too close or use his wrestling to his advantage. But here's the interesting part. Walker has been a lot more composed in his most recent fights, especially after joining SBG Ireland, and he will find his opening. Smith likes to control the pace, and if he managed to execute his game plan and wear down his opponent, he will get his hand raised on the night. But if Walker connects, it'll be curtains for the UFC veteran. It's a super close fight, but I think Walker will get the job done, and maybe by knockout. That finally brings brings us to the mouth-watering main event between Rozenstruik and Jailton Almeida, who is an absolute beast. Almeida has 18 professional victories and has never gone the distance in his career, winning 7 fights by knockout and 11 by submission. He is exceptionally well-rounded with heavy hands and high-level jiu-jitsu, and he is one we should all be keeping an eye on. Rozenstruik hits like a freaking truck. He has 13 career wins with 12 coming by knockout. His most recent knockout of Chris Dukas in only 23 seconds. As good as Rozenstruik is, he does tend to struggle against high-level fighters, and Almeida is that guy. Grappling is a bit of an Achilles heel for Rozenstruik, given the fact that Almeida is relentless with his takedowns and submissions. The longtime heavyweight contender will have his work cut out for him. I am not saying Almeida won't stand and bang with a striker Rozenstruik caliber. He can and he may even knock him out, but I doubt he would take that risk when he has an easier route to victory, which is taking his opponent down and submitting him. The fact that Almeida averages 7 takedowns per fight with 70% accuracy makes me believe that the fight will hit the mat and Rozenstruik will have a hard time dealing with it. But since heavyweight fights are unpredictable, I won't be surprised if Rozenstruik pulls off the KO. However, I'll go with the safer bet, and that is Almeida. So this is how I see the fights playing out at UFC Charlotte, Rozenstruik versus Almeida. Let me know your predictions in the comment section below, and if you like this video, please show my channel some love by subscribing and turning on your notifications so I can keep bringing you more fight breakdowns like this one. Thanks for watching, and again, I'll see you at the top. Peace.